Here's something that's going to sound crazy at first, but I really want you to stick with me because by the end of this, I promise you'll never, ever think about aging the same way again. Okay, we've been conditioned to believe that getting older means getting weaker, that, wrinkles and joint pain and shuffling gaits are just the price of admission to our golden years. But what if everything we've been taught about aging is fundamentally wrong? What if the decline we associate with getting older isn't inevitable at all, but rather the result of a massive collective misunderstanding about how our bodies actually work? So I've dedicated my career to studying something called biological age versus chronological age, and the distinction is it's everything. Your chronological age is just how many times the Earth has gone around the sun since you were born. But your biological age, that's the real story. This reflects the true age of your cells, the optimal functioning of your organs, and the efficiency of your metabolic processes. In other words, it's like a report card for your body. How happy your cells are, how strong your organs are, and how fast your engine, also known as metabolism, runs. And here's the revolutionary part. These two numbers don't have to match. In fact, with the right interventions, you can literally run your biological clock backwards while your chronological age keeps ticking forward. The secret lies in understanding what scientists call the pillars of physiological decline. There are specific measurable markers that determine how well you age. Things like muscle fiber density, bone mineral content, metabolic flexibility, cardiovascular efficiency, hormonal balance, and cellular repair mechanisms. For decades, researchers thought these were largely fixed by genetics, that you got dealt a hand at birth and had to play it as best you could. But we now know that's absolutely and positively false. You see, every single one of these markers responds dramatically to environmental inputs. And the most powerful input of all is progressive resistance exercise. So let me paint you a picture of what really happens when we age without intervention. From your 30s onward, if you lead a sedentary lifestyle, you can lose muscle mass at an average rate of 3 to 5% per decade. While this decline may seem slow or insignificant at first, muscle isn't just about appearance or physical power. It plays a crucial role in your body's metabolism and overall health. So, the core of the problem is literally your core. Your muscles are massive glucose disposal units. They're what keep your blood sugar stable. They're pumps that help your heart circulate blood. And they're the framework that supports your skeleton and keeps you upright and balanced. When muscle mass declines, it creates this cascade of dysfunction that touches every system in your body. But here's where the story gets interesting. And this is what keeps me up at night with excitement about the possibilities. Your body is incredibly smart about resource allocation. Muscle tissue is metabolically expensive. It burns calories just sitting there, so your body only maintains what it absolutely needs. If you live a sedentary lifestyle, your body looks at all that muscle and says, well, why am I feeding this tissue when it's not being used? This is inefficient. So it starts breaking it down and repurposing those amino acids for other functions. But if you create a regular demand for strength and power, if you force your muscles to work against progressively heavier loads, your body has no choice but to not only maintain that tissue, but to make it bigger and more capable. The research on this is absolutely staggering. We've taken people in their 70s, 80s, even 90s who haven't done any structured exercise in decades, put them on basic core training programs, and within 3 months seen improvements that seem almost impossible. Increases in strength, increases in muscle mass, improvements in balance that reduce fall risk. And this isn't just about physical capacity. These people report better mood, improved sleep quality, enhanced cognitive function, increased confidence and independence. It's like watching someone get their life back. And the bone density story is equally compelling. Okay, your skeleton isn't this static framework that just holds you up. It's living tissue that's constantly remodeling itself based on the forces placed upon it. When you challenge your muscles with strength and resistance, those muscles pull on your bones with tremendous force, and your bones respond by laying down new mineral deposits to handle the stress. This is why astronauts lose bone density so rapidly in zero gravity. Not because space is inherently harmful, but because their bones aren't experiencing the loading forces they need to maintain themselves. For young people, this means you can build what I call a bone bank account, laying down extra mineral density that will serve you for decades. For older individuals, it means you can halt and even reverse osteoporotic changes that were once thought to be irreversible. I've seen 70-year-old women regain bone density levels they hadn't had since their 40s simply by consistently challenging their musculoskeletal system with appropriate resistance. Now let's talk about the cardiovascular benefits, because this is where people's misconceptions really show up. Everyone assumes that aerobic exercise is the gold standard for heart health, and while rhythmic, sustained movement certainly has its place, the cardiovascular adaptations from resistance training are actually more comprehensive and in many ways more beneficial. When you perform resistance exercises, especially compound movements like squats and deadlifts, you're creating these massive pressure changes throughout your body that force your cardiovascular system to adapt in remarkable ways. Your muscles act as secondary pumps, helping to return blood to your heart more efficiently. Okay? Your blood vessels become more compliant, better able to handle changes in pressure. Your heart itself becomes more efficient, able to pump more blood with each beat, so it doesn't have to work as hard during everyday activities. Studies have shown that resistance training can lower resting blood pressure as effectively as many medications, improve cholesterol profiles, and enhance overall cardiovascular fitness to levels that rival traditional endurance training. But perhaps the most exciting area of research involves metabolic health and blood sugar regulation. Type 2 diabetes has become this epidemic in our society, and the standard medical approach is to manage it with medications rather than address the underlying cause. But when you understand how muscle tissue functions as a glucose disposal system, the solution becomes obvious. So your muscles are constantly hungry for fuel, and when you train them intensely, they become even more efficient at pulling glucose out of your bloodstream and storing it as glycogen. A single resistance training session can deplete muscle glycogen stores by 30 to 50 grams, creating this massive capacity for glucose uptake that lasts for hours or even days after you finish exercising. This means that when you eat carbohydrates, instead of causing blood sugar spikes that damage your organs over time, those nutrients get immediately shuttled into your muscle tissue where they belong. It's like having a built-in blood sugar regulation system that gets more efficient the more you use it. And then we get into the really cutting-edge territory, the cellular and genetic aspects of aging. This is where science starts to sound like magic, but the research is absolutely solid. Your genes aren't your destiny. They're more like a vast library of potential responses to environmental conditions. This is a big subject that I can go on and on about, especially epigenetics, but maybe in the future we will talk more about this particular subject. So, which genes get expressed, which proteins get manufactured, which cellular processes get activated or suppressed. All of this is heavily influenced by your lifestyle choices, and resistance training is one of the most powerful gene expression modulators we know of. Studies using genetic analysis have shown that resistance training can literally reverse aging-related gene expression patterns. Get this. People who engage in regular strength training show gene activity profiles that are indistinguishable from individuals 10 to 15 years younger. We're talking about genes involved in protein synthesis, cellular repair, inflammation control, and metabolic regulation, all shifting toward more youthful patterns. At the most fundamental level of biology, resistance training is turning back the clock. There's also fascinating research on something called telomeres, these protective structures at the ends of your chromosomes that shorten as you age. When telomeres get too short, cells can't divide properly anymore, leading to tissue dysfunction and age-related disease. While excessive endurance exercise can actually accelerate telomere shortening due to oxidative stress, moderate resistance training appears to preserve and potentially lengthen these structures, essentially slowing down cellular aging. But here's something that took me years to fully appreciate, and it's something that doesn't get nearly enough attention in the research literature. In other words, when you play hard and use your muscles, they get stronger, but only if you rest afterward. Just like how a superhero needs sleep to recharge, your muscles need time to heal and grow bigger and stronger after exercise. And that recovery happens primarily, and I really want you to get this point, recovery only occurs during sleep, specifically during the deep sleep phases when growth hormone is released and when your body undertakes the most critical repair processes. What I've observed over decades of working with people is that you can have the most perfect core and resistance training program in the world, but if you're not getting quality sleep, if your body isn't properly aligned and supported during those crucial recovery hours, you're leaving massive gains on the table. Your spine, you see, isn't just a stack of bones. It's the central highway of your nervous system. And when it's compressed or misaligned for 8 hours every night, it affects everything from hormone production to muscle recovery to cognitive function. I've watched people plateau for months, doing everything right in the gym, eating perfectly, but sleeping on worn out or the wrong mattresses. Your mattress and pillow are non-negotiable. If you're serious about recovery and performance, you must sleep on a mattress and pillow designed by an expert in spinal biomechanics. No compromises. Poorly designed bedding causes microcompressions in your spine and misaligns your neck, sabotaging recovery. The moment you upgrade to professional grade support, a mattress that maintains spinal curves, and a pillow that keeps cervical vertebrae neutral position, strength gains accelerate, energy soars, and progress resumes. Deep sleep drives muscle protein synthesis, growth hormone, and IGF-1 production. But if your spine is stressed from poor alignment, your body wastes energy compensating instead of rebuilding. This isn't optional. Expert-designed sleep support is critical. Don't let bad bedding stall your gains. So you literally can't optimize your recovery if you're not optimizing your sleep environment. And this becomes even more important as we age because our natural growth hormone production declines and our recovery capacity diminishes. Every advantage becomes crucial. I've seen 60-year-olds who switch to proper spinal support report not just better sleep, but faster recovery between workouts, reduced morning stiffness, and even improvements in their lifting form, because their bodies were finally maintaining proper alignment throughout the night. Your mattress and pillow aren't just comfort items, they're recovery tools, as essential to your anti-aging protocol as the weights themselves. The implications of all this research are profound, but here's what frustrates me about how it's being applied in the real world. The medical establishment still treats exercise like it's some nice-to-have lifestyle enhancement, rather than the most powerful anti-aging intervention we possess. We'll spend billions on drug research trying to find meds that can replicate a fraction of what you can do naturally. I think part of the problem is that core training doesn't fit our cultural narrative about aging gracefully. We've been conditioned to think that accepting decline is dignified, that fighting against aging is somehow vain or unrealistic. But that's exactly backwards. Maintaining your physical capacity, your independence, your vitality as you age, that's not vanity, that's responsibility, not just to yourself, but to your family, your community, to the healthcare system that has to deal with the consequences of preventable decline. The other issue is that people think they need perfect programs to see results. They get paralyzed by analysis looking for the one best routine or the perfect diet protocol, when the truth is that consistency matters far more than perfection. Your body is incredibly adaptable and forgiving.